story along the way somewhere on that.
Yeah.
Ah,
All right, I think we're streaming now.
perfect.
Yep.
Jennifer, are we good to go?
Yes, we're good to go.
All right.
Okay, Jennifer, can you pull it up on the screen for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The December 1st Ways and Means Committee is now called to order. I'll call on Councilman Member Brady for our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could all bow our heads. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day in the place that we are blessed to call home. We pray that you will guide our decisions as we impact and impart the budget on the city of Charleston. Give us the wisdom to do what's in the best interest of our citizens as we go through these unprecedented times with the COVID-19 pandemic. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Item number 2.
Move for approval,
Second.
October 13th and
Second.
10th, November 10th, minutes.
That's October 13th and November 10th.
Correct.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the minutes for October 13th, 2020 and November 10th, 2020. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Bids and purchases.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. All in favor of approving item number 3, bids and purchases, say aye.
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 Opposes? Item number 4, recommendations of State Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee.
Move for approval, A and B.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 The ayes have it. Item number 5, can you
Move
move
for
up,
approval.
Jennifer?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of approving hospitality fee budget, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item number 6, municipal accommodations fee ordinance for capital projects and operating expenses.
Move for approval.
Second.
I'll second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 The ayes have it. Item number 7,
Move for approval.
general fund and enterprise funds expenditure budget.
Move
I'll
for approval.
second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say
The mayor has
aye.
his hand up, Mr. Gregory.
Who did?
The
I'm
mayor has his
sorry.
hand up.
Okay,
Councilman.
I have my full screen. I'm sorry. Mayor Tecklenburg?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I sent an email out to my fellow colleagues last week, I've been working on our budget, my proposed budget to you since last week's comments, and indicated that I would bring forward to you an amendment to my own budget here at first reading. So that's what I would like to present to you very briefly. It's a different approach, I must admit, even though after many months of work and terrific work by staff and the support of the ad hoc budget committee, when we had our workshop recently, or a recent meeting, and went over the thing, I was listening to comments being made by our other council members and citizens. And so it's always good this is why diversity is good. You kind of get the opportunity to look at things from a different way. So a little different approach here with this amendment to the budget. So we talked about the hopeful possibility of getting of some federal relief last week, and that if we were lucky enough and blessed enough to get that we would apply those funds to the LOST, local option sales tax credit, that we were asking to use to help fund the budget. But instead, after our discussions, I took the approach of thinking about things that we could cut from the budget and restore them in the event we're blessed to get some relief from the federal government, rather than looking to our taxpayers for that. So Amy's got a little PowerPoint that she can run through, but essentially we have a reduction in expenses of about $3.5 million and a comparable amendment to number 8, our revenue budget as well. The net effect will be to remove any reliance whatsoever on local option sales tax credit. Our citizens would get full 100% of every available penny that they can get from the local option sales tax to apply to their property tax. And in addition, we would reduce the millage by 1 mil that we had requested. So we would fully restore the loss. We would reduce the millage by 1 mil. We would cut some items from the budget, which we'll go over again briefly with you. But those items would be restored in the eventuality, which I think is very positive, given the upcoming administration, that we will get some direct federal relief. So Amy, could you share your PowerPoint and maybe run through this very briefly?
Sorry, I was muted.
There you go.
So, amendment to the expenditure ordinance, a reduction of $3.4 million in expenditures. And it is the following: reducing the transfer to the drainage fund from franchise fees for $450,000, the transfer to affordable housing from franchise fees for $250,000, the Daniel Allen Rec Center opening up July 1st, the W.L. Stevens Pool opening July 1st, reducing overtime by $1 million, a 10% cut to applicable expenditures, a reduction in the high priority items, that spreadsheet that we sent out, and a reduction of professional and contractual services for a total of $3.4 million. So typically we transfer $500,000 to the drainage fund and $300,000 to affordable housing from franchise fees. The amendment would include a transfer of $50,000 to each of these funds, and it keeps $700,000 in the general fund for 2021. Facilities, the Daniel Island Rec Center opening July 1st would produce a savings of $309,000. And the W.L. Stevens Pool, it's in need of repairs and enhancements to improve the air quality in the pool area. So we anticipate that opening July 1st. So the pool being closed will cut costs by almost $106,000. Over time, most departments were cut to zero. Fire, police, and public service were reduced by a little less than a third of their normal budgeted amounts. 10% cuts to various object codes. We had gone over a spreadsheet of all the operating budget by object code, and there's that one column that had $4 million worth of expenses that we could look at. So we're cutting 10% of that. That's $408,000. And then high priority items, these were the items. And if you want to see specifically what they were, I can switch to a different spreadsheet, but this is basically what they were for $666,000. Professional and contractual services, these were the items that were cut. So financial advisor that we've been trying to put in the budget for the last, 3 or 4 years. Performance improvement assessments. There's some really small dollar items. The audit implementation for the police department cut by $50,000. The illumination project by $20,000. Turning leaf. Normally it's for reentry service for $24,000. We're going to cut that back for $35,000 savings. And then we had $60,000 for abandoned boat removal. So we're cutting by $30,000 for a total of $233,000. Let me know if I'm going too fast.
I would just add on this slide that we're leaving some money for all of these contract services and professional services. So we're not severing ties with our relationships, but we're basically reducing them temporarily, and we hope to restore them in the future.
And then for the revenues, it's obviously the same amount. The sales, the local option sales tax, that was the 50% for $4.1 million. The reduction of 1 mil to keep it at 2 mils is 1.6 million. There's also a 2% business license fee that's transferred into the drainage fund that we will keep in the general fund of $610,000. Additional fund balance, because we had said before we'd use $5.2 million. I said we could use up to 6 million. So that's the additional amount of fund balance we can use. And then we have an additional contribution from CWS that both the mayor and Councilmember Waring had spoke of. They were able to get that done. So we have $1 million, an additional $1 million from them to include in the budget.
So I want to give big kudos to Councilmember Waring on this one, y'all. You know, we came to you, we told you, we got them to agree to sell a property and split the money with us, but since it hadn't happened yet, according to accounting principles, we weren't able to count the revenue yet. So we went back, Councilmember Waring went back to the CWS management and board and got them to agree just to go ahead and forward us the $1 million as part of our fee from them for 2021. And they voted on that just yesterday and approved it. So we can now add it to our budget. So thank you so much for that.
Well, let me add in here, Mr. Mayor, you worked just equally as hard as I did on that. And but I think all of y'all need to know that they realize it's a relationship. We join at the hip. They want to see us do well, just like when they come and have their bonds approved, and we celebrate them for their fiscal management. They want the same thing for us as well. And as a matter of fact, after this meeting, and sometime I'm sure before the turn of the year, we'll be talking about some other found monies as a result of maybe a more effective billing system that we'll eventually go to. So all of you all know the personalities over there just like we do, and those relationships mattered, really mattered when we needed it most. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your involvement as well.
Yes, sir.
So this is basically what it would look like. The 202, the revenues go down to 199.5 million and expenditures down to $203.8 million. There's still a deficit of 4.2, which is covered by the enterprise fund surplus. And just as additional information, $300,000 home at 4%, it'll be a $24 increase of property taxes. $300,000 at 6%, it's $36. $600,000 home at 4%, it's a $48 increase. And $600,000 home at 6%, it's a $72 increase.
Amy, can you just make it clear that's an annual increase?
That's
not
right.
monthly?
Annual
Right.
on your property tax bill.
That's 2 mils, Amy?
That's 2 mils, yes. And then the millage history, just to show you with this change, because we had looked at it before. That millage for Charleston County is 65.1 and 75.1 for Berkeley County. That's with a full local option sales tax credit. That's all I had.
So that's my amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Any questions for Amy?
Well, I do have one question. Amy, could you touch on how, on those bills, where would the taxpayers be able to see the lost revenue being credited when they do receive the 2021 tax bill?
So on the property tax bill, there's always a credit amount, but it doesn't
ma'am.
give you like what the millage comparison would be. It's just that credit negative amount that's on the property tax bill.
So when a taxpayer looks at their municipal tax bill, I actually have some of them right at my side, right here, my own tax bill. When you look at the bill, the initial bill, and you see a minus for the county sales tax, and you see a minus for the municipal tax, is that under the municipal piece reflective of our lost revenue going back to the taxpayer?
Yes.
That lost revenue is a difficult subject to comprehend. But I think we need to, as we go into the year and tax bills begin to come out, in October of next year and November of next year, we need to remind the citizens that that minus is because we're one of the only municipalities, certainly only major municipality in the region, North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, Charleston, that return 100% of the local option sales tax back to the citizens for municipal tax reduction. Thank you.
Did you hear my second, Mr. Chairman? I second Mayor's amendment.
Okay, moved and properly second. Any discussion? If
Is-
not, is their hand up?
Is Councilmember Mitchell withdrawing his initial motion?
Councilman Brady and Councilmember Sacrum, they had their hands up. I'm good. I made a motion, but
So it has been seconded by Councilwoman Jackson.
correct.
The amendment, sir, the amendment.
Yes,
I'm with the amendment, yes.
yes.
So
any-
Councilmember Mitchell, you're accepting the amendment?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor as
have-
amended?
Councilmember,
You have two
Right.
hands up.
you have some folks that want to be heard.
Okay, because I can't get my full screen. So would you?
Councilman Brady.
I see Brady second in.
I got it now. Okay.
Okay.
Councilman Brady?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amy, I just had a question. Had there been, I didn't hear nor see in that particular presentation, was there any modeling on what a staff salary reduction would look like in order to make up for the 2 mills? What would that look like across the board?
So we had initially recommended a kind of a scale based on pay grade that was a $2.1 million reduction, which would not get you the 2 mills. We'd have to make additional cuts beyond that, because 2 mills would be $3.2 million.
Okay, thank you.
Saccharin? Councilman Saccharin?
Thank you, Chair. So I guess to piggyback on Councilman Brady's question, would it not be possible to have a combination, 1 mil, and then offset it with the staff reductions? Would that not equal the deficit number that we need to get to? Was that thought through, or was that considered, Amy or Mayor?
Well, I'd like to respond whether it was considered, and it certainly was. And the will of council, it's possible, but I would make the plea to my colleagues here on council that we, our employees have really pulled their weight this year. We have asked them not to hire other employees due to a hiring freeze that's now been in effect for almost a year. We're projecting that to extend all the way through 2021. We've been trying to catch them up on pay grade over the last few years, and we're not offering them any cost of living increase this year. They have served the public ably and well, and really beyond the call of duty in light of being exposed to the coronavirus in this pandemic year. And we did ask them to look at all the budgets and cut overtime for this coming year by $1 million. And I believe it's the reasonable, the right and respectful thing to our employees to maintain their existing salary.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, if I might add, they're also not going to get any increases. We're not going to do the increase for the $15 an hour as well, aren't we?
No,
That's correct.
Right.
That's
So,
correct.
I mean, that's another burden that staff is carrying. I really think as we look at our staffing and how they deliver, particularly with freezes, staff shortages, and some of the many things that you mentioned, Mayor, I think it would be piling on. And given the circumstances that they have worked under over the last year, I think it would be a great disservice. Councilwoman Jackson.
but you have.
Thank you. I just want to associate myself with the mayor's comments and your comments, Chairman. I can't say it any better that I feel like the staff have poured themselves out in uncertain times, and we are asking a lot of sacrifice based on the fact that they won't have new colleagues to spread out their responsibilities, even though the responsibilities increase. We haven't even seen the census results yet, but we all know we have more citizens to serve. And I don't know about you all, but I enjoy getting the suggestions and the questions and the critiques from my constituents, and those haven't slowed down during COVID. They might have even picked up a little bit because everyone's at home looking at their ditches filling up and their trash not being picked up on the different days we've changed. And so I just feel like I want to associate myself with your comments in support of the staff.
Okay, Council Member Griffin.
And Councilmember Appel had his hand up.
I'm sorry,
Griffin-
Councilmember Appel, Councilmember Ross,
Griffin hand was up a while though.
Councilmember Ross.
Harry can go first if he wants.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Griffin.
Okay, I'll keep my comments short and sweet. No matter what happens tonight, no matter what the vote is, like I said previously in our last workshop, I'll say it again, I'm going to donate my next year's salary to help. And I put that in the email when I sent the expenditures that I would cut. I didn't see a lot of them make it into the proposal, but I just wanted to do what I said I would do and give you my way of how I would do it. I like Councilmember Appel said, we can't get up here and say that we don't want property tax increases if we're not willing to at least put in the work to show what we would cut. But I want us to be a little bit easy with how we keep referring to, our staff can't afford to take a pay cut, because we have to remember we've got 1,700 staff members and a lot of them don't even live in the city. But besides that point, we have 141,000 plus members that live in this city, and they've all sacrificed a ton, a lot more than we have as a city. By saying that not being able to hire more people or not getting a bonus this year is a cut, I'm telling you guys, that is a really wrong way to put this thing. We're talking about businesses all over the city that have shut down. We're talking about unemployment like we hadn't seen in years. The sacrifices that we've made now, and I get it, we've all put a lot of effort into this, and Amy is the best CFO in this country. She's worked harder than any CFO of any private or public business. I mean, honestly, I am so impressed by her and how she's handled herself through this. Her department has worked amazingly hard. But at the same time, regardless of that, all the work that we've put in, we just have to remember how our citizens are going to view this. They're not watching all of these videos. They haven't sat in all the budget workshops. All they're going to see is a tax increase. And so how we word it and how we go about our business, and just remember, nothing is a given. We don't know if we're going to get federal funding, and we certainly don't know when this virus is going to end. So we could very well be in this shape next year or even worse. So we just have to make sure, if we're not willing to make cuts this year, are we going to be willing to make cuts next year? I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know. And this position we're in is obviously never been seen before. So there's no right answer. Unfortunately, because I just feel like we haven't done enough, I'm going to vote no tonight on this general fund. But I promise you, I appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, for putting in the extra effort over the holiday weekend to come up with a plan to not use the local option sales tax. We can at least say that we're not doing that for the first time. So that's a big step. But I'm sure that if we really looked, hard, we could have probably found that 3.2 million to not put the burden back on our taxpayers. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to applaud the mayor, Amy, my colleagues on council for answering the call and going back to the budget, looking for the specifics, finding the specifics, and delivering a budget today that is far superior to the one we looked at the last time we all got together. And property taxes can be a little abstract and complex, to say the least. And I just want to point out some specifics about how the loss works with respect to a tangible example. So I happen to have my property tax bill right here. I live in Burns Downs. My house is assessed at about $400,000. My lost credit, my municipal loss credit this year was almost $300. Okay, so when we compare preserving that $300 credit to the $24 a year or $33 a year we just looked at, we got to put all these numbers and all these concepts into context. I'm not happy about any tax increase, but let's pause and recognize the substantial improvement of this budget from the one we looked at previously. Preserving the 100% loss credit is a major, major victory. And special shout out to Councilmember Waring for going to a water utility, Charleston Water Systems, and finding $1 million. That's fantastic. That's how we got here. We got here through a combination of a lot of people's efforts. I saw some aspects of my proposal in the presentation today. I saw some aspects of other council members' proposals today. And this is how the process is supposed to work. I'm very proud of the process. Y'all, I think we may have some more time between now and final reading to maybe dig a little bit deeper, look at it again, and who knows what can happen. But I think that, let's recognize that taking the loss off the table is a major, major, major victory that pales in comparison to a potential 2 mil increase. Again, not happy, not thrilled about the 2 mil increase, but it's apples and oranges to compare that to the loss. Last thing I'll say is, again, just a reminder, the salary cuts are to police, fire, and public works. After the year that those folks have had, I was in the streets this summer for some very difficult days in the city of Charleston, and I've seen our police officers sweating in 100-degree heat in riot gear in the city of Charleston this year. To tell those folks that are already making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, you're getting your pay cut in 2021 after all we've asked out of these folks, I'm sorry, they're not the same as any other worker. They're not. And I'm happy to say that. They're not the same as any other worker in the economy. They are the first responders. Remember, after 9/11 and after all these tragedies we've had around the country and around the world, our first responders perform a special and unique job in our society. They're more important than lawyers. They're more important than a lot of other folks in our community. And I mean, everybody's important, but they're special. And I think that when it comes time to talking about $24 a year more for most homeowners, for our police and fire budgets and salaries, I think that's the stark choice that we have. And I'm sorry, I'll leave it at this and turn off the mic. When you are telling a police officer in a police department that they will be receiving less money in 2021 than they received in 2020, I don't know how you can call that anything other than defunding the police, and I'm not for that.
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Shade has his hand up.
Councilmember Shade.
And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And unfortunately, I got booted off for some reason at some part of the early discussions with this. But I did pick up on the last part of the mayor's comments and in the comments I heard from several of my colleagues concerning this. Number one, we are a city government. We're not a business, and we try to run our government as efficiently as we possibly can and effectively as we possibly can, because we're dealing with public funds. It's not our money; it's the money of the people, and we are stewards of that money, and we have to be very diligent with how we handle public funds. If for some way that I was the czar of the world or in charge of making ultimate decisions, I would get rid of property taxes altogether. I hate them. I think property taxes are unfair to those who own property. I own a good bit of property in Charleston County. And this tax increase, this $2 million increase, is going to have an impact on me personally and a lot of members of my family. And it's just against my personal interests. I ran for this job not for my personal interest. I ran for this job to look out for my community and for my fellow citizens. I have served in the public sector. I was a federal prosecutor for almost 9+ years. And I lived through the period of time in which, during the Bush administration, the government had a shutdown and we were furloughed. I can tell you from a personal standpoint what that meant to me and what it meant to my family. When I was furloughed, I didn't get any money. I had a mortgage I had to make. I had children who I had to feed. And through generosity, I was able to make up that loss. I had a little bit of money in savings at the time. But I couldn't go out and find another job on a temporary basis. I didn't have an ultimate source of income to have. And I was a public servant. I was doing the work of the people of the United States of America. And I was getting paid less than I would get paid if I was in the private sector. And I took that job because for a variety of reasons. It was a stable job. It provided me with a lot of experience and insight. And I thought I was doing something for the good of my community. But I got furloughed. And it was like someone had punched me in the gut, saying, "Thank you for a job well done, Peter. By the way, you're not getting a paycheck." Now, you try telling that to these men and women of our city who are living through a pandemic. And you tell them that we're going to cut your pay. And you tell them that we may furlough you. Or you tell them we may fire you for a job well done. That's not how you run government. That's not fair to them. Because those men and women have gone out and stood post in the worst possible conditions that we've seen in my lifetime. And I suspect for a lot of people's lifetimes as well. When we had those riots on the street back earlier this year, those policemen stood up. Those firemen responded to a fire. Our city employees went out and helped clean up those streets. And many of us walked up and down King Street talking to merchants and average citizens about the impact it had on our community. But our city staff, our city employees were there. They were called upon to do a job, and they did it well. And I'm not in good conscience going to take any kind of measure to tell those city employees, "Thank you, and by the way, you're getting a pay cut," or "Thank you, and you just been fired." I just can't do that in good conscience. We have a choice to make either between a raise in property taxes, which I hate. I want to tell you that. I want this to be heard very clearly. I hate property taxes. I hate a raise in property taxes. It's the absolute last resort. There's a choice between that and a cut in services and a cut in personnel. And we have to make a decision. And this is, I hate to use this term, but we've bounced around. It's the lesser of two evils. So that's where we are with all of this. I'm going to support the mayor's amendment to this. I had sent off to Amy and to the mayor some of my inquiries and proposals as how to make this balance work. Councilmember Rappel's comments about the LOST money. We're one of the few municipalities in the state that gives back 100% of that local option sales tax. Every year I've been on council, when suggestions came up about the local option sales tax money, I fought it. And we have stayed true to our word. Even now, looks like we can stay true to our word. We give the community back 100% of that local option sales tax. It has a tremendous impact, particularly for those folks who have other non-residential property, those who have other commercial related or rental property. That's going to have a huge impact on them not having that money taken away from them. So I applaud my colleague, Councilwoman Waring. You have a big head before the end of the night, Councilwoman Waring, for the work that you did. I'm afraid you really did step up to the plate. I really do appreciate the insight that you had on this. And the mayor and for Amy and the staff. I did have conversations with our two chiefs about this. And I think one thing we need to take in consideration, a good chunk of the savings is coming from a cut in overtime pay. Those men and women use that overtime pay for a variety of reasons. When the chief has to bring out more firemen to cover a hole in service, or the chief Reynolds has to cover somebody, the overtime pay is to fill those holes, make sure we are covering everything. This is going to have a huge impact on them, and that's something we need to take in consideration as well. And I've asked both of them just to, just hold tight on that. Watch that overtime pay as closely as you possibly can. Let's see where we are after 3 months. Let's see where we are after 6 months on the overtime pay. But we are in fact cutting back on some of their salary with this overtime pay anyhow by doing that. I wanted to mention that. I did have a very good conversation with Chief Curry about that earlier this morning. And he brought that to my attention, that it is going to be a negative impact on his men and women in that department. That's something we need to consider. Thank you all very much for listening to me.
I don't see any more.
Councilman Seekings.
Councilman Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the meeting. I was ready to take over.
Oh, I know you were prepared.
So almost everything that I had to say about this has been said by very astute and observant council members. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think what you presented tonight is a good start towards what would be an ending really good budget, and also a good start on the challenges that we're going to have going forward, because tonight and what we vote on for first reading is not the end of anything. It's the beginning of the challenges we're going to have, not just this year, but in the years coming forward, because the way we build our budget is through property taxes, which you now know to be stable and increasing some, business license fees, which are retrospective, and we know that business license fees will be down in 2020 and likely in 2021 as we recover out of this, certainly in the retail sector, through the King Street corridor and out in West Ashley to the Citadel Mall, all of those areas, and our parking enterprise fees. And then even though it doesn't go directly into our general fund, hospitality and tourism dollars, which we use to fill in the gaps. That is the industry that worldwide has been hit the hardest of any industry by the challenges that we've had over the last 6 months. And we in Charleston, as the #1 tourist destination in the universe, have felt it more than anybody. And it's gonna take a good bit of time for us to build back up from that. And we are, as a government, are partners with those businesses. And so, I applaud you for recognizing that we should leave the local option sales tax credit where it is. We've always done it. I think it's a little bit advanced to call this a heroic move. I mean, it's something that we should be doing as we go forward. But I do think as we look forward, Mr. Mayor, we've got to start thinking today about 2021, 2022, and 2023, and think about what our budgets are going to look like and how we're going to build them. I mean, Councilmember Waring and the Charleston water system, good for them. I mean, it's great that they've given us $1 million. That's a one-time hit for us. We're not going to have it next year. And so, are we going to be debating lost and property taxes every single year? So we've got 2 more weeks. You in 1 week with a Thanksgiving in between and lots of family activities, I'm sure, came up with a cut to this budget that reduced the tax burden on the citizens that we originally had planned through this budgeting process by 2/3. We've got another 2 weeks before final reading. There is no reason why we can't look across the board and see if there's things out there. I totally agree with everything everyone said about our employees. Our employees and our citizens have gotten crushed through all of this, and they've been working harder than they ever have before. And again, I look to the hospitality sector and the King Street corridor. Think about what's happened there in the last 6 months and the pay cuts that everyone there has taken. And when they get their first property tax bill next year after rebuilding up, there's an addition to it, not a flat or subtraction to it. That's going to be really tough for them. So let's keep working. Let's not quit tonight. Let's think about what happens in the next 2 weeks. We've got till the end of December to pass a full budget. We've got another city council meeting. So thank you for doing what you did. I applaud the council members who pointed up that we could do better. I think everybody has participated in this, and we are. Mayor, this is ultimately on you. So thanks for doing it. But I think we still have some room to improve without cutting salaries of any of our employees. And let's not give up tonight. Let's keep working and see what comes up between now and December 15th. Thank you.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, I'd like to applaud everything that I heard tonight, even from the mayor and Councilman Waring and others, and the suggestion that they made, and what the mayor have come up with this new amended budget. I said, sometime we forget that we as a community have to keep this city operating. I know we look at businesses and businesses are fine. I like to see businesses here, but if it all fails, the community still have to take over, period. You know, I don't understand. Some people might not remember City of Charleston the way City of Charleston was, like I was when I growing up and stuff in the City of Charleston. So we have to look at it very seriously of what the City of Charleston is all about, and just stop saying that, oh, if you cut this, you cut that. Our employees here works hard. I can tell you, I'd be out there till, like I tell you, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, seeing garbage trucks going in at 10 o'clock. A lot of us on city council right here don't want to be a sanitation worker and work with that little bit of money that we are paying our employees. They don't get paid a whole lot of money. And we talk about cutting them now, and we have so many people out here now that don't have jobs already. So we want to add to that and putting more people out in the street to be homeless and unemployed. Come on, people, we are better than that. We are a City of Charleston. We are much better than that. Look at what Columbia and Greenville and Spartanburg is going through. Look at their tax base and look what they're paying so far as taxes is concerned, their community. They're being hit very hard up there because most of the things in their area, so far as their schools and so far as their churches, all those places are tax exempt. So they don't have all the businesses that we have in the City of Charleston that we can pull money from. So we here in the City of Charleston, we know what we have to do. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing we have to. Nobody here on city council, my colleagues, want to raise taxes. I don't want to raise taxes. I don't want to see my taxes go up. I have a small little amount of money coming in per month. So I know what you have to do, but we have to make the tough decisions to keep this city operating and hope and pray, as I said, that things will get better down the road. That's all we can do right now. We can kick around the can and kick it down the road and say this and say, oh, you can cut this off. We can look back at this. Hey, it's us. That's why we are here on city council, to make these tough decisions, not because we want to, but this is what we have to do right now. I'm not looking at what's going to happen next year, what if I'm going to be here next year. I'm here in OW now to make these decisions I feel is going to be betterment for everyone in the City of Charleston and do the best we can of what we have to work with. And that's what I'm saying to you, my colleague. This is what we have to work with. Okay, we have until September of next year to turn it into the county, the tax base. Maybe something else might happen during that time. Something else might happen, but we don't know. But right now, we have to do something right now to put it in place at this time. And that's all we're doing now. So we need to stop it. You know, it's applaud me to see this. And I've been on this council a long time. I think I'm the oldest one on council so far, serving on council since going through all these budgets every year, seeing what we have to do. Even when we raised taxes one time to give the employees raise, we did it one time. And it was always on the time that when people have to run for re-election, but doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. It's what we need to do what's right. When I pray on things, and I believe in prayer. That's one thing with me. I don't fool around with that. I don't say it and play with it. I mean what I say when I kneel down and pray to the Most High or to God or whomever you want to call them. This is what it's all about, people. We have to make these tough decisions and go forward and go on and hope and pray that something better is down the road before the end comes. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate all that has been said by my colleagues. I think it's Councilmember Waring. You on mute?
Thank you. I just one footnote to all my colleagues and my desk mate, Councilman Seekings. This is not a one-off. This money's from CPW is a longer term. This has always been a handshake agreement, if you will, and the mayor and myself, along with you all, we're working out an actual MOU and writing for 22, 23, and years going forward. So I just wanted to point that out. This isn't a one-off, but thanks.
Any further discussion? If not, it's been first and seconded. It's time to vote. All in favor say aye. Should we do a roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Request a roll call.
Let's
vote.
let's do a roll call. Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Del Chapo,
Nay.
Councilmember Shealy,
Nay.
Councilmember Saccharin.
Nay.
You said nay?
No.
No? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Brady,
Nay.
Councilmember Gregory,
Yes?
Councilmember Waring,
Yes.
Councilmember Seekings,
Nay.
Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Shade,
He just went on.
I don't see him suddenly.
I think he dropped off again.
He dropped off again.
He'll be back.
Councilmember Griffin,
Nay.
Councilmember Appel,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jackson,
Yes.
Mayor Tecklenburg,
Yes, aye.
and Councilmember Shade.
There you go.
He must have dropped off again. He was having problems.
I just talked to him. He just called. He's trying to get back in for some reason, and he's dropped off. Can he call in?
Yes? He's connecting.
Yeah. What? Why don't you can't call the vote by phone, so let me see if I did. I told Jennifer that you could beat it off again and boot it off again.
Rick,
And
you're
Jennifer, what would you like him to do?
well, I
He can call in his vote.
He can call in his vote. He can.
We've done it in the past.
Yes.
I think our current rules allow electronic, we're all electronic.
Why don't, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, why don't Rick put him on a speakerphone?
Sure. I mean, we can do, you can just call in.
All right, you're on the speakerphone now.
Okay.
Coming back.
There he is.
Councilmember Shade? You're muted, but while you're there, if you're voting yes, raise your hand.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
I'm voting yes for the mayor's amendment. I hope that's what I was voting for. Yes.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, I got booted off again for like the second time in this meeting. I want to figure out what my technical problem is.
Okay.
motion
What was the count?
7-6.
six.
Fail.
6 in favor?
Fail.
No,
Pardon?
it's in favor.
No, it passed 7-6.
7 in
That's
favor.
what I'm saying. So it passed 7-6. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Move on to the other item. Can you pull it up on the screen for us, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Move for approval.
Second.
This is which number now?
Number 6.
9.
9.
We're on number
This is
we
number,
vote
this
seven,
is
didn't we?
number 8. This is
number 8. Number 8, General Fund and Enterprise Fund Revenue Budget.
this is really the other half of the budget, so to speak. So,
Yes.
so I would respectfully say that the amendment I presented was for both 7 and 8, one for the expenditure side and one for the revenue side.
Okay.
And that's the way that I seconded it, Mr. Mayor. So
Right.
7 and 8.
Well, just so that we're clear, we better vote on 8 because I'm a little confused. I didn't know we were voting on 7 and 8. Just so that we're clear, okay?
My
Do I
same,
hear a motion for 8?
my same vote carries.
Okay, it's been moved.
I
and
move for approval of the amended number 8.
I second it.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we move for approval as amended of number 8. All in favor say aye. Let's do a roll call.
Councilwoman Del Chapo,
Nay.
Councilmember Shealy,
Nay.
Councilmember Saccharin,
Nay.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Brady,
Nay.
Councilmember Gregory,
Yes?
Councilmember Waring,
Yes.
Councilmember Steens,
Nay.
Councilmember Shade,
Yes.
Councilmember Griffin,
Nay.
Councilmember Appel,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jackson,
Yes.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries. Number 9,
I move for approval.
Second.
Second.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 10. the
Move for
mayor's
approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Could you move it up a bit for me?
I'm sorry.
That's it, isn't it? No. Item number 11.
Move
Move
for
for-
approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 12. Police
Move for
Department.
approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Parks and Capital Projects.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item 14, Park
Move for approval.
Capital Projects.
Second.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Item number 15.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item 16.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item number 17.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Do I have a second? Was that you, Councilman Jackson, second? You were second?
Yes.
Okay. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number
18.
18, Stormwater
Move for
Management.
approval.
I'll second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Item number 19.
Move for approval.
Moved and properly
Second.
seconded. Okay, any discussion?
Hey, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm
Council-
sorry, I was on mute. I'm just on number 18, and we don't have to do it now, but if at some point, Councilmember Waring, through your committee, or can someone just give us an update on where we are with that Earhart Street shaft and exactly, I mean, between funding sources and the project to the north at Septima Clark, I'd just like to know.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it in the open council meeting at the,
Okay, great.
at the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Item number 20.
Move for approval.
Any discussion? Did I hear a second?
A second.
Okay. Moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Uh,
Mr. Chairman, Did we vote on 19?
19. We did.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did.
We did?
Okay.
I don't have a vote on number 9.
I don't think
Yeah,
we did.
I don't think we did.
Okay, let's go back to 19.
Didn't
Move
carry.
for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Chairman Shea?
Yes, sir. Ways and Needs Chairman. The Committee on Real Estate met yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Several items are on our agenda. The first item, item A, dealt with a property swap in order to administer the construction of senior affordable housing. This involved a property swap of property owned by the city. And if Giona, if you are available, will you hop in on this and give us a little bit more of an explanation of what we approved yesterday?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Shade and members of council, what you have before you is an exchange agreement between the city of Charleston and America Street Ventures. You all would know best the Humanities Foundation. They've created an LLC for this development. Basically, what we're doing is swapping property that the Humanities Foundation owns and has under contract with property that the city currently owns. We are doing this with the idea, or with the final product being affordable housing produced on the properties that the city owns, and the properties that the city would secure from Humanities Foundation would be used for stormwater management. There are a number of contingencies outlined in the contract. There's a 45-day due diligence period because the city of Charleston would need to secure a voluntary cleanup contract in order to execute this contract, or execute a closing on this contract. We would also have what is referred to a right of first offer and a right of first refusal. Should Humanities Foundation, after constructing these units, decide to sell the property, be it at the 15-year period or the 30-year period. That is also a contingency that is outlined in the contract. The city would buy the property back with a 10% reduction in cost. The other matters related to this contract include, just so we're totally clear, the exchange of 5 parcels from Humanities Foundation for 2 parcels owned by the city. I would remind us that the properties owned by the city are valued slightly higher, approximately 1.9 million. It's a little bit over that. The property values of the swapped properties are 1.3, which allows Humanities Foundation, or America Street Ventures in this case, equity of approximately $600,000. I believe that those are the major components of the contract.
I think you hit all the highlights, Ms. Shaw Johnson, and she called me as I was in the grocery store this morning to give me a correction on one thing, because this is going to be a 4-win proposition for the city and for our citizens in the community. The committee voted unanimously to approve this. The foundation is going to do the construction work on these units. And I think there's 78 units that are going to be constructed with this project. It's going to be downtown. And quite frankly, the question came up as to what the city was going to be able to do with the property it currently, with the property that the foundation owns. We're taking that back over. It's going to help with stormwater mitigation. There were some questions as to what extent that was going to look like. But as Ms. Charles Johnson mentioned, we have a 45-day window to do that. So, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we approve item A.
A second.
You want me to continue with my report, or you want to take these one at a time, Mr. Chairman? B and C on our agenda, I'll take together. This dealt with the Daniel Island Tennis Center. This is a proposal to make some amendments to the lease and to look at a donation agreement. The company that is managing the Daniel Tennis Center is proposing a $40 million redo on our city property, the Volvo Tennis Center. The city, per the contract in our lease agreement, has a $3 million obligation to make some changes to that, some maintenance work on stairwells and other locations. It's not defined in the framework of that agreement when we were obligated for the $3 million, but these two documents together would require that the city pony up $1 million up front. The $2 million that would be spent as part of this overall renovation project to include the city's obligations would be deferred until later. Chip McQueenie, if you were on the call, and you may want to fill in a couple of gaps I may have left out, but I think that's essentially the nuts and bolts of that. Chip, have I left anything out?
Sterling actually worked on this one.
Oh, Sterling, I'm sorry. Sterling, I didn't mean to leave you out.
I'll take credit though.
Yeah, Sterling, are you still with us?
I'm here. I'm here.
I'm sorry. I was thinking Chip on my mind, and and you and I have talked about this extensively. I did not mean to exclude you. So Sterling.
No problem. I think you covered everything. You know, I just want to remind everyone there will be a third component to this. There's a construction management agreement between the city and Charleston Tennis LLC, where the city will delegate the authority to enter into the construction contracts. That agreement we will be bringing to you at the next meeting. So this is 2 out of the 3 agreements that are going to be necessary to complete this deal in order to make it happen. And if anyone has any questions specifically about the documents, I'm happy to go through those. But I also wanted to offer that I believe Isaac Gruber is on the phone from BMOT Capital in case you have any questions specifically about the project.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a little clarification about the $3 million. Originally, the city had obligated $3 million that were going to go directly into the actual renovation project. But because of the circumstances that the city is in and the, I think the appreciation of our stakeholder partner at the stadium, that $1 million is actually going to be $1 million that we pay now as we sign the agreement that will go into the renovation. But the $2 million is not due for 3 years, and that will not go into the renovation. It will stay as a deferred maintenance repairs, capital repairs, sinking fund. So that's a real benefit to the city that we already have a little, you know, a little fund that we'll be able to use down the road for repairs.
Thank you, Councilman Jackson.
Yeah, the committee voted 4-1. I was alone, no vote on that item. The next item, item D.
Chairman, may I pause you? I see Councilmember Waring and Del Chapo wanted to be recognized.
I don't have the full screen ahead of me.
Well, let Ms. Del Chapo go first, please.
So, and again, just to kind of continue the conversation, it's $2 million 3 years after the completion of the renovation. And just, I'm sure we have to use this word for particular reasons, but it's not really a contribution. It's the city's property where we are maintaining our property like a landlord. Instead, it's kind of coming across, you know, again, news grabs hold of these things and whatnot, and it gets twisted around. It's not like we're donating money for this to be done. So just a little bit of semantics there. I want to make sure that are clarified. And it's not coming out of our general fund. So this isn't, again, some questions that have been raised. If the city's in such dire straits and you're talking about raising taxes, this is from accommodations tax. So that's a totally separate bucket that's not tied to, you know, conversations that we've been having about budget. So I just want to make sure the public understands some of those things and other members on council in case not, because I I certainly had to ask a lot of questions.
Thanks for that, Councilman.
Councilwoman Ware, I think, had his hand up.
Thank you. Very good point, Ms. Dalchapo, in that this does not come from property tax proceeds. It comes from dollars generated from tourism dollars. Also, as part of this agreement, when this facility is operative, there'll be a $1 ticket fee that will come back to the city on every ticket that's sold over there that would come back for capital improvements down the line. So we don't have that on some of our other facilities. It will be done on this facility, not to mention the private sector is coming in with almost a $30 million investment into that facility. So again, not taxpayers' dollars. So it's a win-win-win. And I wholly support this item. I'm certainly vote in favor of it.
And the feeling with what Councilman Waring just mentioned, colleagues, there'll be a higher increased capacity, seating capacity for events, not just for the tennis, but for other type of social events. And I think that we heard that the amount to be raised would be an additional $250,000 to the city with that. The next item was item number D, to authorize the mayor to sign the necessary documents for the CPW on a permanent easement for the CPD Forensic Lab. That was passed unanimously. Also approval of a lease agreement with the Department of Second Department of Transportation for a master lease. Mr. Benjamin, if you were online, you may want to explain a little bit more about that. Proposal is something that you've been working on for a number of years, I believe. Keith, if you're around.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good evening, council. Yeah, this is something that actually began even before my time, and just a special thanks to a lot of different city staff. Mayor made a number of calls, but also partnership with SCDOT, specifically Deputy Secretary Colvin, and also the Director of Right-of-Way, Mike Barnby. We now have a lease agreement for the entirety of the underpass under I-26 corridor. It's something we've been working on for some time, and obviously it's going to really open up not just opportunities for parking, as that's been a big topic of conversation, but for recreation, for build out of the eventual low line, and reconnecting and knitting back a number of those communities that were bisected by that piece of infrastructure. Just some very specifics that are in there that I stated during the real estate meeting, but just want to be very clear. One is there's language in there that allows exclusive parking specific to adjacent affordable housing. There's affordable housing property that's going to be developed right there near Sumter that will be able to be one of the first beneficiaries of that section. There's language that's very specific around our flexibility around design, even up to our allowances around the bridge piers. There's language in there that allows us to, if we get to an impasse with the local district office around design and specifics that we want to, that we can go directly to Columbia, directly to the Deputy Secretary of Engineering to hash out those particular issues. And there's also language in there that basically allows us to use any revenues that are generated from that lease area for that lease area. So just really grateful for the collaborative effort to get that going. Obviously with you all's approval, both within committee and full council, we'll then submit that back to SCDOT for the Deputy Secretary's signature.
It's a job well done, by the way, for your work on that, Mr. Benjamin. Thank you. And the other last item on our agenda, Mr. Chairman, was the approval for annexation of a piece of property, 2891 Doncaster Drive, located in Councilmember Harry Griffin's district, to be annexed to the city of Charleston. That also was approved as well. So items A, D, E, and F were passed unanimously. And like I said, that's a B and C. I was alone vote no on those two. That's my report.
But they did pass.
Sir?
But they
Yes,
did.
sir. They did pass. All of them passed.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to
Yes.
make sure everybody's clear. Any questions for the chairman?
Is the second for the report.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Is there anything else to come before this committee? If not, this committee is adjourned.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I think the mayor had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have my full screen here. I'm going to ignore you.
I could have caught you at the next meeting on this. I did want to just make a comment about the real estate committee meeting yesterday. And, some of our citizens might not recognize, and even it kind of hit me yesterday, these various matters that pass that our staff and our council has been working on for years. We bought we got the property from the highway department along the old Cooper River Bridge about 15 years ago. And what we passed tonight, this property swap, sets the vision for the completion of the development of that property exclusively, pretty much, for affordable housing, and now add to that to help address flooding and drainage issues in that part of the city. Secondly, the Volvo Cup agreement. I mean, we have a generous family willing to invest $40 million in one of our city properties. It's really remarkable. But here's the thing. I remember working for the city for Joe Riley during the 90s when he jumped at the chance to get the Family Circle tennis tournament to come to Charleston from Hilton Head, with a big economic impact to our city and our region. When hospitality, its presence here was not nearly what it has become. And even recently, the annual tournament was reviewed to have a $35 million economic impact for our city. So with the additional investment, that economic impact will grow. And then thirdly, our agreement with the DOT to expand the footprint of the low line, which will become a transformative part for the mid and upper part of our peninsula, for mobility, for affordable housing. I mean, when you add all that together, and we ran through it in an hour at a meeting, and just realized that the thousands of hours and even years of work by staff to make some of these dreams a reality. I just think it's notable, and I wanted to share that, Mr. Chairman.
And Mayor, just as important, the general public doesn't know the story. And I think it goes back to what Councilman Waring said several meetings ago. I mean, it'd be great if we just had a little quick press release or something out on some of this stuff, so the public will know that we are investing in affordability, for instance, and in a big way. So somehow we've got to get this message out, because I don't think that the general populace clearly understands all the work that we're doing with regard to affordability across the board. Just had to say that, Mayor, again, emphasize.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Anything else to come before this body? If not, see you guys in a few.
Mayor, can we get 5 minutes?
Okay.